What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Zebec today, ZBCN USD. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you all for being here. It is the 12th day of June, and it's been a few days. It's been like 4 days, I think, since I've talked about Zebec last, and it'll probably be like that from here on out until there's really some exciting stuff worth talking about on a daily basis again. Um, just because it has been boring. And I know that whenever things get boring, people care less to watch this kind of content. I know that there's a lot of you who would love it if I made videos on Zebec every single day. Sorry. But I also get bored. There's nothing really too new to talk about as far as the price action goes. I'm going to give you guys a rendition. We'll check in on this thing. It'll still be a part of the regular lineup. I plan on talking about it at least once, if not twice a week. But as far as every day goes, probably not, right? Not while it's this boring. And if it gets even more boring, if we see some truly boring price action, uh, like we did over here, I might just do what I did last time and step away until we see something exciting come in, Um, but, and again, from here, the reason why I stepped away was we weren't doing anything. I expected that we'd move up. So until we move up, until something happens, or something happens to the opposite effect, I'm not going to weigh in on it, because what's the point in just saying the same words over and over again? So let's do that now. Weekly time frame here. Looking at this on the Bybit chart, clearly this line here meant nothing. It meant nothing at all. Or if you're one of the people who thinks it means something, and you think that breaking above this meant that we were going to go to new all-time highs, then it's super significant. It's a super significant line, in which case going back below it and finding resistance at it here means that we are dead in the water, right? So it's either significant, and that means we're bearish, or it was never significant, and it also means that we're bearish. Because this was clearly a fake out, is what this was. It was clearly a fake out. It was a trap. It was a bull trap. It's a very obvious bull trap. And, well, we're reaping the consequences of that bull trap now. We look at this from an all-time high to the low, the relative low in February, and we went right up to the golden ratio. It couldn't be more perfect. And the fact that we are now below the 382 level, the fact that we're here and we've got 2 days, about 10 and a half hours left in this week, I would assume we're going to close below the 382. Typically, that signals that this is a relative high. When you go from the golden ratio to this area, you typically look to find support if you're moving higher. If you close below the 382, which we're about to do, even going below it, let alone closing below it, but the effect that we've wicked so far right here, to me, it would signal that we are going lower. And what do I mean by that? I mean lower than this low. So as time goes on, my Zebecian friends, from a low to a high, on this nice little move, this extravagant move that took place over the past few months, I suspect we're going to see prices that are below this low as 0.01386 to 0.0008086, somewhere in this range. And I don't care what happens in between. We dump, and then we get a solid pump, and we dump back down, we kind of consolidate, whatever. It looks like we're getting higher lows here. We're still going to dump. We're still going to go lower. And we're going to go down here. I don't care if it takes until 2027. It probably won't take that long. My assumption is that we will be down here sometime in August, September, October. Somewhere in there. That'll be when we're down here. If not earlier. And I really think that even though you've moved down at quite a fast pace already, it was April 27th, here we are, middle of June, that you're already down this far, I think that the pace will pick up, and it might shock some people. It really could be August that we're down here. And perhaps it is 2027 before we see new all-time lows. I would suspect that we see a long-term accumulation sideways range like we did in our early days. And maybe it's just as long as this. Maybe it's longer. Maybe it's less long. But in that, you could see a moment where you get lower lows and you're still moving sideways, and you do see new all-time lows. There's a chance that you don't see new all-time lows. There's a chance. You're still going to go down in this area. And my money's on the idea that we do see lower lows. My money's on the idea that Zebec, whenever it's in the throes of this bear market and seeing the most extreme drop that it's seen, whenever we're dropping like this, whenever we're dropping like this, whenever we're dropping like this, the whole rest of the market's going to dump too. And you're probably going to see lower lows, like new all-time lows for the rest of the market as well. So you're not going to be alone in that. But that's the overall idea. Weekly RSI rejecting the overbought zone. Let that be a warning. It was a warning last time. That was a very powerful signal last time. It sent us to the all-time lows last time. Wouldn't it be serendipitous if it did the same thing here? The shower turns on just for Zebec, baby. Rejecting the 0 on the weekly MACD. Stochastics look bearish as well. Before there's any chance, right? You're not going to move down like this. It's just not going to happen. You moved up in a pretty damn straight line. That's rare. It doesn't happen like that. But you're not going to move down in a straight line if you are going to new all-time lows. Even if you're going in this area, you're not just going to dump down. You're gonna see some volatility, right? Before you're at the next pivotal moment where you see some volatility to the upside, your stochastics will first have to get out of the oversold zone, okay, or into the oversold zone, I would say. Probably out of the oversold zone as well. But we're quite a ways away from there. So I suspect, I mean, damn, looking at this, yeah, we're probably going to be in the throes of this move. Like the strength of this move will be July, August. Yeah, that'll be when we're oversold. When we last got oversold here, when we got oversold here, when we got oversold here, let's just analyze those moments, okay? You got oversold here. The drop that you saw in 2 weeks' time from a high to a low was 48%. You got oversold on this week technically with the blue line. Oversold on this week with the orange line. And then you moved sideways for months before you actually recovered. Okay. You got oversold here. And you were oversold technically on this one where you moved down 27% in a week, but you're in the oversold area. Over the next month you moved down 50% over the next month. You're consolidating, you're more or less moving sideways, but from a high to a low you dropped 50%. You're oversold here, and relatively like at this high whenever you started to get oversold, high to low, you dropped 43% in 3 weeks' time. We're not oversold yet. There will likely be a high at which to measure from when we are oversold, and in that moment you probably do drop below this low. My assumption would be that sometime in July or August we will be at, if not likely below, that level there, that low there. So as time goes on, that's really the plan. That's really the expectation. Now I want to look at the short-term stuff and see if we can expect anything as far as like short-term analysis goes. Even though July, August is pretty short-term in itself. I mean, hell, even to 2027 is pretty short-term. That's pretty short-term right now, but let's look at this real quick. From a low to a high, you've rejected your 382. Yeah, the next target area that I would go for is the golden ratio. You're probably going to go to the golden ratio, 00217, 00202. But again, on the daily time frame, you're getting set up to get oversold here and probably a lower low in the oversold zone. You really could stand to drop down to the 786, 886 to see a stronger move, because again, when you see this RSI seeing stronger bearish signals, that typically doesn't mean that you get a weaker move, right? From a high to a low, you moved here 25%. From a high to a low here, you moved down 25%. From a high to a low here, you moved down 30. Whoop, that wasn't what I meant to do. That was weird. TradingView glitched on me. You moved down 30%. I would imagine that from a high to a low here, you probably move down more than 30%, in which case the 786, 886 comes to view. So really anything from 00217 to 00166 is a completely appropriate target. Sure, even if you get into the oversold zone, maybe you do find support of the golden ratio. Maybe that does happen. You're still going to go lower, and likely you're going to go lower from here before seeing any kind of significant pivot. My guess would be that we do bounce off the 786. My guess is that we're going to go down to 0.01838 and bounce there. And what do I mean by bounce there? I mean, instead of bouncing like this, instead of bouncing like this, instead of bouncing like this, you might see a little bit more recovery. And you get excited, you break through your trend line again, your trend line of zero significance, you find resistance, and then you go lower. That's probably what's going to happen. And then that'll be like July, August that we really start to see the dumps come in. That might be the high point at which to measure from your weekly stochastics oversold area. If we see, let's just say from the lowest point, we see a 40 to 50% drop as we've seen historically, yeah, that would take you down below this low. Anyways, I got nothing else. Congrats to all the people who bought down here when we were saying to buy and to hold. Congrats to all the people who sold up here where we were heavily advocating for the sell. Condolences to the people who bought up here and who have not sold yet. It's still not too late. And I suppose it's neither a congratulations or a condolences. Maybe condolences to the gains you could have had, but to the people who bought in this range, it just is what it is. You can get off the ride before it ever actually happens for you. Anyways, hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. You remember? I remember, man. XRP Las Vegas. You clearly don't know what's going on with Zebec. This is where you get in trouble, C-Zar. You only look at the charts. You don't look at the fundamentals. Show me the charts, and I'll tell you the news every single time. Bye-bye.